The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, Mass Humanities honors the storytelling prowess of Ken Casey from punk band The Dropkick Murphys. We'll talk with him and director Brian Boyles about the occasion.
And we'll explore why clickbaity headlines can obscure real science from happening by speaking with Mr. Universe about recent discoveries in the sky.
But first, a movie theater in Williamstown is about to get a makeover.
So we head to Images Cinema to hear about how soon they'll have 2 theaters.
Like they're having a theater baby.
More like anomalous cell division, but yeah, sorta.
There's many things I'm going to enjoy. One, get rid of this, tan burlap.
You don't like
wall carpeting? Who doesn't like wall carpeting?
It reminds me of a poem from college where there was one piece that he ended with, like a rug on a wall, I think you're stupid. Do rugs go on walls? Do rugs go on walls? No. Get on the floor. Get on the floor, Marjorie, so we can step on your face. And it's the only thing I remember about that whole performance. But every time somebody's like, there's carpet on these walls, and that's the only thing I think of. Do rugs go on walls? Do rugs go on walls?
I can see why, from a soundproofing standpoint, with a little bit of a limited budget, this maybe seemed like a good idea at the time.
We've raised a magnitude of 10 times more for this current renovation project than was raised for this previous renovation. We're doing a lot more, and it's costing a lot more, but it's going to be worth it.
We are in Williamstown at Images Cinema, experiencing the glory of the Phase 1 reimagination of this beautiful art house cinema, with executive director Dan Hudson sitting in the beautiful bar, lobby, and sometimes viewing room.
That's right, and actually it's going to be, there'll be a lot more viewing room or screening room, whatever you want to call it, action here, because we've been very successful in our fundraising efforts to renovate the main theater. That's going to close down for renovations in October, and then this will be our primary screening room here on Spring Street.
Talk about the changes that are going to happen in your main viewing room.
It's one screen now. How many people does it fit now, and how's it all going to change?
If it's 150 now, which with the exception of some special events, we're never at 150 in there, so that kind of necessitated us to kind of reimagine how to best use the space and really think about, right sizing our auditorium, and we crunched the numbers and we found out that 70 is the sweet spot. We're chopping off about the first 2/3 or so of the existing auditorium, turning that into a 70-seat house. That'll be our new main theater. And then with that extra space, we're going to create a 19-seat little micro cinema, small screening room. Yeah, it's going to take 5-6 months to do that. So, we're going to be doing more film programming here in the lounge, right on Spring Street. And we're also going to be doing, kind of expanding on what we have been doing, which is, more off-site partnership screenings as well.
Yeah, we had the Adams Theater on last week, and we got a little preview of your, what is the 1970s series called that I know some of those movies are going to be there?
Political Paranoia. And actually,
I wonder why anyone would feel that way right now.
History is cyclical. Well, Watergate and, that sort of era of distrust in the federal government and kind of what's going on really did coincide with a lot of interesting, innovative work from sort of the new Hollywood era, if you will. And actually, interestingly enough, just this week with the passing of Robert Redford, it's also a very good time to dip into these films. We'll have both 3 Days of the Condor and All the President's Men are still upcoming in that series. Mm-hmm. So anybody that wants to kind of pay tribute to this legendary icon can come see some of his best work.
So what kind of movies are going to happen here in the lounge at Images Cinema in Williamstown? Dan Hudson, executive director.
A lot of the bread and butter indie fare that we're really known for will be showing here. We can't show the big studio movies in this space just due to the technology and some of the restrictions involved there, but a lot of great stuff is going to be happening here. We just started booking some of the films that are going to be coming up in October and November in here, sort of like your indie auteurs like Kelly Reichardt and Richard Linklater. Some of their new films we'll have in this space. And as we kind of like go into the fall and winter, some of the Oscar season, we'll have some of those films as well.
With this build, were there any concerns about soundproofing between the two theaters that you're about to have, especially because one is so small and the other one is 3 times the size?
Yes, actually, a great deal of time was spent on that. So we work with a theatrical design firm called Charcoal Blue. What they do is like consult and advise on these things. So we had acousticians look to see, okay, so if the HVAC is running, like how many decibels is that going to like create, and like the vibration, like how much sound absorption you need, and like what the materials need to be. So it's going to be highly designed to be able to get 2 theaters, in close proximity in there right next to each other.
Acoustician is a new word that I just learned right now, and I love it.
Love it, yeah. We have to find more ways to use it in regular conversation.
It's a statistician that pokes you with needles.
Oh, no.
No?
You work in radio. You should know about acoustics.
No.
Not in our building.
Yeah, every train that comes through Union Station is on the radio.
Every big rig that comes by on 91 shakes the whole thing.
Fortunately, we don't have that issue here.
So when are the 2 new theaters slated to open?
So our target reopen date is sometime in March. Definitely like in January, February is when we're imagining and sort of lining up the work to do, installing the new seats, installing the new projectors, making sure everything's connected and it's all integrated and working correctly. Because there's a lot of just like automation and things like that. Things that I don't necessarily always think about even myself, but there's like a certain level of, the lights automatically come up at the end of the movie. Like, electricians have to like connect that to a system that gets automatically dimmed when like a certain trigger happens and stuff like that. So there's a fair amount of that level of detail that'll be happening kind of like in the last month or 2 of the project, because the actual construction-y part is not actually that much work. You're not laying a foundation or putting a roof on or anything like that. We're just like kind of stripping out the room and then just like, kind of building it back up.
Speaking with Dan Hudson, the executive director of Images Cinema, who will close the main cinema here in Williamstown in October to rise like a phoenix from the flame with 2 cinemas here now, Images Cinemas, but is teaming up with other locations and showing some films here in the lounge. Images Everywhere All at Once. I love that, the name of that, given how big a fan I was of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
Dan, I believe last time we met with you here, you told us, do not miss the substance. And this was before I had really heard anything about it. And at your recommendation, I saw that movie and absolutely loved it. And then it turns out lots of people really loved it. It brought this sort of genre film to new heights, getting Academy Award nominations, bringing Demi Moore out from the shadows into the spotlight where she deserves. What are some of your hot tips of movies that you've seen in the festival circuit now that either may be coming to Images or you may be presenting, or that we should just be on the lookout for if we love movies?
There's definitely a few that are on my radar that I haven't seen yet and I'm hoping to see soon. Normally I go to the Toronto Film Festival around this time of year, which, with everything we're doing with the renovations and stuff, didn't work out this year. But one of the ones that I'm most excited about right now is the new Park Chan-wook film called No Other Choice. And he's just one of my absolute favorite directors. Like him and Bong Joon-ho, like something in the water. Like these South Korean filmmakers, like make these masterful satires. And so his new film is like a workplace satire. Like this guy is like a candidate for a job. He like methodically is like going through and like killing the other like candidates. So like he'll end up being the no other choice.
That's how I got a radio show at NEPM.
Yeah, it's like that sort of, I guess it's like kind of like the Squid Game sort of thing, And I think actually the lead actor in the film was on the Squid Game. So it's like, I don't know, these sort of like class and capitalism satires coming out of South Korea are just like incredible and stuff. So I think this is going to be one of the biggest films of the year, and we'll have it here at Images when it comes out.
Looking again at your massive pile of flyers, I'm curious who on your staff's pick was Hausu, because awesome. But also a non-film thing you have going on here, the autobiographical comics, one Sunday a month.
Yeah.
Where did that come about?
A former staff member, Anna Moriarty Lev, who's a local artist. It was actually one of the first types of events that we started hosting here in the lounge when we first opened it. We've had all sorts of different like artists and creatives doing either workshops in here. So that is like a workshop. So people can come in and like learn like, hey, I want to like make an autobiographical comic. How do I even go about doing that? We also have book readings and poetry readings in here too. We have live music, and it's been really cool to just see, because the Berkshires, in this area have so many like interesting creative people, and just like it all kind of like builds on itself. You had asked earlier who picked that. That's Mary Redstone, who's our box office and membership manager here. So this is kind of like a little bit of a coda to we had earlier this summer. We had a member curated movie series. We had 2 weeks of movies that were picked by members of the theater, and it's like, well, why don't we like do like in the like final weekend that the main theater is open before closing for renovations, why don't we do something else special like that? So like 4 of our senior staff, if you will, here at the theater each picked a movie. I picked Boogie Nights because it's my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and kind of in honor of his new movie coming out.
But there's also Pee-wee's Big Adventure, classic Tim Burton's first movie.
Absolutely. That was picked by our managing director, Janet Curran. She's got a deep love for Pee Wee Herman, and that's like one of her favorites. So that was her pick. Yeah.
And then we're looking at the poster backwards because it's on the window outside, and I cannot read backwards what the last one is. It King Kong?
King Kong.
Yes, the OG King Kong, 1933, not the Peter Jackson or any of these other like remakes or reboots. So yeah, that's our nod to kind of classic Hollywood. I hope people do make it a double feature and stick around for Houseu, because that is a great film.
And then go check out that director's other films, because they're all delightful.
We're really glad that this is just a pause here for Images Cinema. It's really cool that you're teaming up with other organizations in the area to show other films and to continue to show films here in the lounge at Images Cinema in Williamstown.
Some people have been like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you," and I'm like, "We're not going anywhere. We're literally Images everywhere all at once." It's like what we're calling it. We're like, we'll have so much going on, like you won't even be able to catch all of it.
But if you do want to try and catch all of the events, cinematic and not cinematic, that Images Cinema are putting on while splitting their theater in twain, head to imagescinema.org to check out their full calendar.
Before we hear more about the Warrior Code of Storytelling with director Brian Boyles of Mass Humanities and Ken Casey of the Dropkick Murphys,
we'll see how everyone should be a little more patient with science sometimes, as something the James Webb Science Telescope noticed a year ago finally gets explained by astronomers to the world and and to us by Mr. Universe Salman Hamid.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Time for some more kitchen table astronomy at the Amherst Kitchen Table of Hampshire College astronomer and the head of Kainat Studios, Dr. Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe. First of all, we all just experienced a little bit of our favorite astronomy an hour ago because the equinox just happened. It is officially the fall as of an hour ago. What's the equinox again?
Well, that is where the Earth is going around the sun, and it's a place where, in some sense, where your day and night are going to be equal.
Equinox.
Equinox.
Equal night.
That's exactly right. And it will also tell you when the wonderful colors of fall are going to start showing up. Here, it's going to be just beautiful.
Yeah, I went to the Berkshires for fresh grass last week and some beautiful vistas en route. But we're not talking about the equinox or foliage. We're talking about black holes.
Yes, so, things are, let's put it this way, not that great in the world right now.
Right.
And sometimes it's actually good to just look at some of the fantastic stuff that is still coming out of NASA that is takes you really away into the universe. And here is something that we had talked about, I think, last year and the year before as well, when James Webb Space Telescope, one of the great observatories of NASA, hope the funding continues, is one of its goals was to look at the earliest objects in the universe. And so our universe, we know, started about 13.5 billion years ago, 13.8 billion years. And it was pushing the limits. The way it was designed, one of its goals was to see potentially the first galaxies and maybe even the first stars. And one of its earliest results was some of these objects that it was finding, which later on astronomers also, some of them were dubbed as little red dots. And people were puzzled by them because they were right early in the universe, like a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, and yet they looked very bright. And so some of the astronomers, and I think we have critiqued them as well. I mean, some went out to say, oh, James Webb Space Telescope broke the universe and things like that. Well, that is not how science works, and that is not how scientists should talk about it either, because when you have an unexpected result, that is actually the beginning of the inquiry, and that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so here it was an unexpected result because the objects look much brighter. And so the question was why they are brighter. And so one thing was like, well, it's really surprising that galaxies, that light may be coming from stars. If that is the case, then how come so many stars formed so quickly? So now astronomers have been looking at analyzing light from these galaxies, and they are quite far away. So they are still faint, even though I'm calling them bright, but in actual light, they are still faint because James Webb Space Telescope is being pushed to the limits. And now there are some interesting ideas of what these little red dots, or LRDs, technically, if you want to impress people, it's LRDs.
You sound like an astronomer.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
call them little red dots, even though that's what astronomers have called them.
Now it looks like they might be a new kind of an object. And I think that's really fantastic.
So James Webb is looking into the distant past, just right after the Big Bang. They see these bright things that they can't explain. Some people say it broke the universe. But now they're saying we've taken a longer look at them, and it may be something that we've never observed before that is creating this type of light that is brighter than we would be expecting in these early millennia, eons of the universe.
Right, and some people never said that it broke the universe because that's how, again, that's what they thought, like, okay, let's try to explain it, how this might have happened. And so one of the things is that, as their name suggests, little. And so these are really compact objects. And why this is really exciting is because now astronomers think, and new papers have come out, that these might be black hole stars. They're nicknaming it black hole stars. And here is the reason why. They're very compact and they're very bright. And we know that black holes, again, people think light doesn't come out, but actually material that is going into the black hole around it, it goes into the accretion disk, meaning to say this material gets spun up really, really fast, close to the speed of light as well. And with that friction, it can produce a lot of light.
So black holes are so dense that even light cannot escape from them. But right on the edge of the black hole, the event horizon, an accretion disk of material that's going into the black hole gets so hot, heated up friction-wise, that it creates this ring around the black hole. It's the only thing that allows us to be able to estimate or see, quote-unquote, the black hole, because nothing observable can come out of the black hole.
From inside. But this accretion disk is one of the brightest objects. It's the most efficient way of converting mass into energy, or matter into energy. Much more efficient than nuclear fusion, but you need a black hole for that.
Yeah.
And so here, when astronomers were looking at it, they were like, okay, well, maybe it's a lot of galaxies have these all of the galaxies have these what are called supermassive black holes, really big black holes, and they are sometimes shrouded by dust, so that can become all reddish in color. Then you would see a lot of a particular type of light that astronomers can detect. They didn't see that. Mm-hmm. Then these black holes also emit ultraviolet light and X-rays. They were looking at it and they were like, well, if it is being powered by the usual kind of supermassive black holes, you should have those. And they didn't find that either. So there was a puzzle regarding that. And so now they have looked at it, and it looked like that these objects are shining like a star. And what that means is that there is opaque gases. It's just like when you look at the sun, but it looks solid. Yeah. But that's because that's the surface where we see the light coming from, that is opaque. This is the same type of opaqueness we are seeing here, except they are estimating that the size of the object is bigger than our solar system. what astronomers are thinking is happening in there is that at the center of this object that is bigger than our solar system, like shining like a star, it is opaque, they think that there is actually a black hole in the middle. And you have this material falling in, there's an accretion disk in it, and what is shining, what is providing light to this object is actually that black hole. This is very strange. I mean, what I'm saying is, no, we have not seen any object like this. Usually, when you have stars, our definition of star is that you have nuclear fusion going on where you convert hydrogen into helium. That's how stars shine. But here, you have this big gaseous envelope, which is being stabilized by energy that's being produced potentially by a black hole.
So usually when we see black holes, which we don't see, we observe them. They're either supermassive and at the center of a galaxy, kind of holding the whole galaxy together with its gravitational force, or a star has collapsed and become a black hole and has an accretion disk, but there isn't a bright opaque envelope around it. This is something we've never observed before, where the black hole is there, the accretion disk is there, but the gaseous cloud around it is being held like its own little mini galaxy, being lit up like its own mini little star.
Exactly, or its own like a star. So this is the key thing. Normally when a star explodes, it clears out everything.
Yeah.
And so here you have this envelope still there, and this envelope is thick enough that it's opaque. So of course, early universe is different than today. And one of the things that astronomers are looking for are first generation stars, because the first generation stars just were made up of predominantly hydrogen and helium. Other elements, other than lithium mostly, but all the other elements were processed inside stars. So there is a search for these first generation stars because they were pure stars. They did not have any other elements like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, sulfur. All of those elements, silicon, were produced inside stars. The first ones were just made up of hydrogen and helium. And so one idea is that there might be objects that are really big because they are just made up of hydrogen predominantly. And when they die, they actually form a black hole in the middle. But because there is so much material in there that even though a black hole gets formed, even though there might be an explosion, but you might not clear out the material around it. And you would have a black hole in the middle surrounded by this gaseous cocoon, you can think of it that way. And this might be an example of that.
So the universe is not broken. We have seen something very rare that we could not explain, we meaning astronomers, not me. And instead of coming out with a headline saying James Webb Space Telescope broke the universe, you just use James Webb Space Telescope more, continue to observe the object, continue to posit theories, continue to test those theories, and come up with another potential explanation, this being one of these black hole suns.
Just think about this cool object early in the universe, 13 billion years ago. We don't have local analogs because those might have been very specific conditions that created it. And maybe this may solve one of the big puzzles of astronomy of how did the supermassive black holes formed at the centers of galaxies so quickly. Maybe it is through these type of objects which we did not know existed.
We got to stop calling them little red dots or LRDs. I think because they are black hole suns, we should call them soundgardens. Or just call them black hole sun. It's a cool name. Cool song.
That is true. They did call them black hole stars, but yeah, I think that's true. And that
suns are stars. Call them black hole suns.
And that should be the soundtrack of the universe.
And not so random aside, underwriter of NEPM, UMass is having conversations today at the campus's Sunwheel just after this show's end at 6 p.m. to talk about the equinox. So find more information about that at umass.edu/sunwheel.
Now we ship ourselves to Boston, where one of their own is about to be honored with an award for storytelling. We'll speak with Ken Casey of the Dropkick Murphys and Brian Boyles of Mass Humanities about the upcoming celebrations.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
You sound great.
Okay, cool.
Ken, big fan. Grew up in the Boston area. I am a Pot Murphy myself in my lineage.
Okay.
And I love your salty language. Feel free to cuss as much as you want. We can bleep you out with whatever sound of your choosing.
Oh, I like that.
What kind of sound should we bleep you out with?
Like the old like from the cartoons that like go.
Oh, the
Like an
awooga.
auga
Yeah.
horn.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
funny. A lot of people choose that one. That is a
Oh,
funny.
that's fun.
Yeah, let's try it out, Ken. Give us
All
a.
right. Off.
All right, there we go. I already love where this conversation's going.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If my accent comes out in the middle of this,
Yeah, we're
we're both from. I'm from Dorchester.
I was born in Dorchester, but grew up in Norton, and my
So-
mom's from Dedham, and my dad's from Rosendale.
You name one more town, it's gonna be like a Departed scene.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god.
I can meet you in an hour in Worcester. How about Medford? How about Dorchester? How about Gloucester?
That conversation goes on for 10 minutes.
What about Waltham?
No, no.
We're going to get serious here. This is public radio. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. This year, Mass Humanities, headquartered in Holyoke, has launched its Massachusetts Storyteller of the Year Awards. The award will honor artists and changemakers who deepen our understanding of Massachusetts, its communities, and the power of humanities to shape a more just future.
This year, Mass Humanities is honoring Ken Casey, frontman for the Dropkick Murphys. Casey's career has been defined by music, activism, and archival storytelling. From labor rights to Irish American identity, Casey's lyrics and leadership amplify the voices and struggles of working people. The award ceremony, Thursday, September 25th, will feature a conversation with Casey about 5 songs that capture his career.
And we are joined by the executive director of Mass Humanities, Brian Boyles, and the lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys and Massachusetts Storyteller of the Year, Ken Casey. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Thanks for selecting me as your storyteller. It's a first for me. So yeah,
You do it all the time in song.
I am known to hold court and hold people hostage though from time to time with stories. So.
Brian, why is Ken somebody you wanted to honor with this storytelling award in this inaugural year of this award?
So Mass Humanities has been the foundation for storytelling for over 50 years, as you guys know, giving people the tools to make history and to change, I think, the present and the future. And for us, this year especially, we wanted to start things off right. So we awarded one Storyteller Award to the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe a couple of months ago, because that's really the origin story of this state. And then we started to ask, who's a person, who's a voice that reflects the way that people in Massachusetts have been standing up for other people, standing together, making sure that we resist the powerful. And Dropkick Murphys and Ken Casey came to mind right away. I'll say I was at the show at UMass at the end of the last tour with my kid. That's a big room full of a lot of guys who look like me. And when Ken said, we, the Dropkick Murphys, have been playing picket lines and standing up to skinheads, and if you think we're going to be silent now, we're not. And we all stood up to sing Johnny, I Hardly Knew You. I knew that this was someone that inspired us, and it made us feel like Mass Humanities was aligned with what he's been doing for a long time, and that this 2025 was the right time to honor him.
And I'm sure people are familiar with the music of the Dropkick Murphys, but if you don't happen to be, you are now the soundtrack of the Boston Red Sox. I still get the chills and think about Jonathan Papelbon every time I hear Shipping Up to Boston. But you have been making headlines over the last year, Ken in particular, as the frontman for the Dropkick Murphys, for standing up and calling out Trump supporters from the stage, which I'm sure has cost you some fans on occasion, but it's something that has been an important part of what you've been wanting to do as a band. Tell us why.
It strikes me as a thing where we shouldn't even be standing out as the band that's speaking up, because every other band in our genre and beyond our genre should, in my opinion, should be speaking, unless God forbid you agree with what's happening in the country right now. But I just don't understand why it's so silent. And so we speak up because that's what we've always done and who we are, but we also speak up to encourage others to step off the sidelines and maybe make people think to myself, well, if these guys can do it, we get so many messages from whether it's smaller bands saying, oh, it's nice to see a band of your size do it. I just think that a lot of people are making like short-sighted, like business, air quote, business decisions of like, whether it's a small business or a band, if I just keep my head down and stay quiet, I'll avoid the controversy. I won't lose part of my fan base or business by alienating Trump supporters. And, I just feel like if you don't stand up now and speak up now, you're going to lose the opportunity down the road when you realize you made a mistake. we've never been one to stay quiet about much. But I think, we do also consider ourselves patriotic Americans. And I feel like that this is what's needed and should be expected of anybody that's cares about their fellow Americans and cares about how others are treated and cares about fairness and cares about all the things that our ancestors fought for, whether it be civil rights, workers' rights, fighting against, fascism in World War II and everything in between. I don't want to be known as the person who, when other people were willing to, in the past were willing to put their lives and safety on the line. I don't want to be one of the people that says, well, it just wasn't good for business. What? So here we are. And yeah, I wish we weren't standing out as one of the few in our world that speak, in our genre, I suppose, that's speaking out. But sadly, we are.
That is Ken Casey, who's the lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys and the Mass Storyteller of the Year, according to Mass Humanities, based in Holyoke. There'll be an awards ceremony in Boston, outside of the fabulous 413, Thursday, September 25th, and we're joined by the Executive Director of Mass Humanities, Brian Boyles, as well.
I have a question that kind of relates politically and a question that doesn't. We'll take the one that doesn't and then come back to the politics. So last year, Dropkick Murphys played Freshgrass, which wasn't a place that I would have expected them to play, like, at all. What was that like?
It was awesome, except for the fact that, little known fact, by the way, speaking of Western Mass, I was actually born in Pittsfield.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, which I have no family connections or anything out there. My father had been sent out to work on a job out there for a couple of months, and my mother went with him, and I just happened to pop. But my birth certificate says Western Mass, and anytime I'm out there, pretty much the only time I claim Western Mass is when I'm in Western Mass. But to show you how little I know about Western Mass, I just started driving up the night of that show, and I called our tour manager, and he said, "How far are you?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm almost to Amherst." And he was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, we're nowhere near Amherst. I'm like, "Oh, I just thought it was near Amherst." And yeah, I wasn't anywhere, and I came in hot to the show as a result. But anyway, at that point in time, we were kind of touring on two acoustic albums that were our music written around the unpublished words of Woody Guthrie. So. It fit in that time period. I mean, I think we'd fit in even in our regular set, but playing acoustic and playing the Guthrie stuff, it was actually a perfect place for us to play in that. And I love the opportunity after all these years of doing what we do to play in different settings and play to new people and play to people that are receptive to the history of the Guthrie tradition and all that. So we had a fabulous time, and maybe they'll have us back again to play our own music. We might be a little louder, but I thought it was a great night and a great event.
How did it feel getting asked by Nora Guthrie to recreate, to give breath to these lyrics of Woody Guthrie, who has very famously said, "This machine kills fascists," with his guitar?
Yeah.
And the name of your Woody Guthrie-inspired album is "This Machine Still Kills Fascists." We'll put the killing aside, given the context of what's been going on, I think, lately. But the idea behind it is still the same. The sentiment there that fascism is something that used to be a dirty word in this country, that our grandfathers fought a war to fight, and now is somehow controversial. But what was it like to be in the orbit of the Guthries and to carry on that tradition?
It's one of the greatest honors the band's ever had, to be able to be given the nod by the family, that they would realize that we have the respect and reverence for, her father's work, to be able to take on that project and take it seriously and do it justice. Yeah, I don't get like wow about a lot with the band. I try to go into everything with this borderline pessimistic attitude to keep everything in check, glass half empty kind of guy when it comes to the band, just so it's like it all stays humble and relevant.
It's very
That's just
punk rock
how
of you. Yes.
yeah, that's how I focus in life. But with the Guthrie thing, I was able to stop and take a minute and go like, wow, man, we've come a long way to be able to be trusted with that project. And I feel like we did do it justice. And I feel like Woody would be proud of the tradition we're carrying on in that regard. And that's how the whole thing came to light. Many, many years ago, early 2000s, Woody's grandson, Cole, said to his mother, Nora, who's Woody's daughter in charge of his archive, she said, Ma, I think Grandpa would like this band, what they stand for. And, that's going back 25 plus years ago now, which I always make the point that say what you will about our politics. One thing I can tell you, they've never changed. And we say the same thing now as we did back then. The only change is that, so many of the other blue collar men and women of this country would have been in lockstep with everything we had to say. And suddenly, this narrative was changed, whether it's the Tea Party, then, Trump coming down the escalator. And I mean, it's been the same throughout time, but there's just been a new way of the use of social media and division to once again divide and vilify people so that we don't come after those that are really causing the problem, which is the wealthy and the greedy corporate CEOs who are, not sharing the wealth with the people.
Kind of in line with that, what is your take on when your music gets used by those folks for things you didn't want? Kind of like when the Beastie Boys had a song get used in a political ad and they went after them to pull it. What are your feelings when disingenuous folks use music that you didn't intend for that purpose?
Yeah, it just shows how out of touch and with reality they are, and clueless they are. It doesn't happen to us often, but it has happened. I remember the first time, really big time, it happened with us was Scott Walker, the anti-union right-wing former governor of Wisconsin, and he was running for governor and coming out to our songs, and I think we still had Twitter at the time. We were still, put him on blast with that. And, in a lot of instances, it's almost just laughable. I often think that the musical pool to choose from of people that would approve of them using their music is, pretty slim down to Kid Rock and Ted Nugent for the most part, because even people really that aren't political, that might not be, sometimes you look at the recent instances of bands that are no longer active and maybe the songwriter is no longer with us and the family archives is coming after them because they don't want the legacy of a parent who possibly wrote the song to be disrespected. The thought of like having a rollover in your grave, while some hateful politician uses your music is pretty sad.
More with Pittsfield-born Ken Casey of the Dropkick Murphys, soon to be honored with an award for storytelling, and Brian Boyles, director of Mass Humanities, as we explore the storytelling that happens in song and the fallout of federal cuts.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, offering personalized solar energy solutions and ongoing customer care, proudly serving communities throughout the Pioneer Valley. Northeast-solar.com.
We're speaking with Pittsfield native Ken Casey, frontman of the Dropkick Murphys.
By the way, little confession. I have never been back to Pittsfield since I was born. I think we should have like a homecoming key to the city day. I mean, how many? I don't know. Maybe there are lots of people from Pittsfield that have gone on to.
What's the name of that actor who's from Pittsfield? Oh, Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks was also born in Pittsfield, Ken Casey. So we can have Elizabeth Banks and Ken Casey statues erected there, perhaps. We're not taking it that far, but you are getting the Mass Humanities Storyteller of the Year award. And Brian Boyles from Mass Humanities, based in Holyoke. Last time we had you on, we were talking about the cuts on the federal level to the humanities in general. Since then, we've lost all of our federal funding, and I think that we're part of the humanities here in public radio as well.
I think we did see that writing on that wall.
We certainly did. We had our funding actually clawed back away from us as opposed to just in the upcoming budgets. How has Mass Humanities been weathering this storm? And how has the public responded knowing that you've lost these federal funds?
The public's been great. People have been showing up. I think we've been able to patch things up. It's hard to know what it's going to look like a year from now because whatever happens with that federal funding, it's going to have strings attached, and those strings are not the same ones that we put on the work we do. And you guys know that even though Doge came and stole our money, we still had 70 different communities reading Frederick Douglass this year. We're still going to give out grants to celebrate the 250th next year. We still brought the Smithsonian here to talk about democracy in small towns. So, again, we took inspiration from Ken. We didn't back down, but we do need the help. I think it's going to be a tough road, but I think that Massachusetts is a place that loves the humanities and loves history. And, we haven't stopped working.
I'm also curious about, you've given out 2 of these storytelling awards this year. What does the future for this particular award look like for 26?
I was thinking of 2 radio hosts, Sister Mads.
I don't need awards. I don't want awards.
You mean Jim and Marjorie from Boston Public Radio, our brethren on the other side of the state on WGBH?
I think we set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, you did.
I think that, we have to continue to make sure people are hearing the stories of this state. There's a lot of people who don't know what to do right now. And I think showing that there are people who have been working for a long, long time, whether that's on labor rights, whether that's on immigrant rights, the work around using history to try to make this happen. I think there's people at the local level, but I think we're off to a good start. And I think given what we're all up against right now, we wanted to make a statement by honoring Ken.
That is the Executive Director of Mass Humanities, Brian Boyles, who will be honoring the frontman for the Dropkick Murphys, Ken Casey, at the award ceremony this Thursday in Boston, the 25th. We mentioned in the intro, Ken, that it's going to be a conversation about 5 songs that capture your career. Can you reveal to us which 5 songs these are?
Or at least just one of them.
I don't remember, to be honest with you. Someone asked me a while back, and I think I said the Clamp Down by the Clash because it was kind of like the first punk band that I liked. I was immediately attracted to the kind of righteous anger of punk rock and the rebelliousness, but songs like that, when you started to say, well, there's a little bit more of a kind of social themes here, speaking up for the worker stuck in the grind of being used by a capitalist system and not treated fairly. Kind of caught my attention and started to shape and make the connections for me to things that I had been learning in the household, that my grandfather would teach me about, union politics and what he felt was important. And I started to make the connections between, old and new. And all that went on to shape, my political beliefs into adulthood.
There's a great article about you in The Atlantic recently. And
it's a fun read.
It is a fun read. But it ends with what your father's advice to you, your late father, and what he would have thought about this time in the era of Boston, which has a reputation for being hardscrabble and also racist, but yet like the birthplace of the American idea. Can you tell us about your father's influence on the way you're going forward in this era of Trumpism?
Yeah, that would have actually been my grandfather, because my father died when I was very young.
Oh, right.
My grandfather kind of raised me. And it was just a little bit of that attitude of the family of immigrants. People would say, I have some friends, one friend who always say, Irish can't be racist. We came here and were treated poorly like so many others, right? And now we've been able to, in a few generations, really come to a position of prominence in the middle class. And that didn't happen by accident. That happened by strong labor unions. And to be able to come to a new country, by the way, we're all immigrants here, like we all know.
Except for the Wampanoag, who won the award earlier this year.
And by the way, just to go back to the Wampanoag, I love how, like you said, the original storytellers of this land, the Wampanoag, and a direct connection to me with nobody in the middle makes me feel somewhat old. But maybe we can work backwards now. But anyway, it's just that being taught of if you came here and were able to build a better life for your family, you can't shut the door behind you. More even than that, it's just about treating people with decency and, trying to help up the guy behind you. That's how punk rock always was too. It's if you had any success with your band, no matter how little it might be, back in the day when our success was as little as being one of the few bands in our little niche of 1996 era punk bands at the Rat who were getting out of town to tour, New York, DC, Philly. Always bring the smaller local band with you. So it's always been that helping hand up to the person behind you. And, I think that organized labor was a great example of that, of helping the newer portion of an arriving workforce that would otherwise have been exploited.
Ken Casey, who's the frontman of Dropkick Murphys and is being honored by Mass Humanities with a storytelling award. Songs are, by their very design, stories being told. A lot of the Dropkick Murphys songs kind of plumb the depths of imagined and real histories. What are some of the stories that you have uncovered, that you've put to song, that have inspired you in the process of being a songwriter telling stories?
Oh, Jesus Christ! That's a throw you under the fire. I mean, I think one of the things that's been really cool is the stories you dig up, or you knew but you didn't get a chance, any platform to tell them about your own family and all the personal stuff. And then, of course, being able to document, the history of labor politics and the history of, whether it be family members or the band's role in it, or the history of immigration, and some of the tragedies and some of the successes that have happened throughout time. And obviously, that's not all we write about, and even just aside from that, documenting your own life. You're going into 30 years as a band, maybe writing from the perspective of raising your children and what their future is going to be like, thinking forward about making sure that there's something left for our children. Those are somewhat new inspirations to our writing.
This question, I feel like, gets asked a lot. And I feel like it's kind of ironic asking it of a punk band because it seems inherent in the genre, but we'll ask anyway. When people come up to you and say anything about keeping politics out of your music, what's your response?
Shut your mouth. But I want to say that. But actually, I typically don't even have to say it. It's funny how the fans will pounce on someone if it's a public discourse. But I'll say, like, I don't know where to start this debate with you. Have you only started listening to us recently? Because I could take you through every single album, going back to the very first line of the very first song on our very first album, the one steel tough fabric of the Union Man was sold and bartered away, fed to money wolves in the Reagan years. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't expect everybody that listens to the band to know everything about the band. In the streaming age, there's people that'll stumble upon a song and go, oh, that's cool, So I get it that there's people that are varying depths of a fan level of a band, but at the same time, listen, we're in the technology age. Who we are and what we're about is readily available. So to be shocked and offended is just, once again, it's up there on the almost comical level of a right wing politician using our music.
That is Ken Casey, the frontman of the Dropkick Murphys, who's written the best song about Boston. Standells, I'm sorry, your song is good, and I like hearing it when the Red Sox have won, and you hear it as you exit Fenway. But Shipping Up to Boston is really the only true Boston song that I can think of that I think is an actual great song. But speaking of the Red Sox, what do you think their chances? You also have Tessie, which has become an anthem for the Red Sox from the Dropkick Murphys. What do you think about the Red Sox chances this season, Ken?
Oh, we got to get Roman Anthony back.
Yeah.
They get some amazing young pitching. It's just tough to go deep in the playoffs without, all hands on deck. So we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you this, it's nice to be talking about baseball in September.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens. So, baseball and Fenway is just such a gift, to be able to share with friends and family. And especially in this day and age, in this fast paced world, to sit at a baseball game is just so uniquely different than a lot of what we deal with, which is, hurry up and give me the action. It's just you can sit and almost enjoy the slow pace and the conversation. It's just, it's America's pastime for a reason.
Ken Casey, frontman of the Dropkick Murphys, Pittsfield native. We're the fabulous 413 radio show. We only talk about things that happen in Western Massachusetts, but now you have a
Except we
free
constantly
pass.
talk about how we're originally from Boston.
We are originally from Boston. But now you have a free pass anytime to come on this show.
That's
that you're a Pittsfield native. And Mass Humanities, headquartered in Holyoke, despite the fact that the award ceremony for Ken Casey for the Mass Humanities Storyteller of the Year Awards will be in Boston on Thursday, September 25th. We love having you on, Brian Boyles, as well, and the great work that you've done for the humanities and in collaboration with NEPM here. It does not go unnoticed.
I have a question for Brian. Where is the event? Because a lot of people are asking me.
It's in Amherst. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean specifically where in Boston.
It's an Artists for Humanity in South Boston.
Okay, see, that's a good way to plug where it is, and at the same time remind me. I'm that type of guy that's like in the car going, where is
am I
this
going?
thing on a regular basis? So thank you for letting me know ahead of time.
It's in Southie.
I look forward to the night, and I appreciate all your support.
Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys and Brian Boyles from Mass Humanities. Thanks so much. We didn't even get to use the Auga car horn that much.
Oh,
I could listen to that guy talk all day.
I mean, there's something really comforting about it for sure.
On the next Fabulous 413, beloved bilingual kids music maker, author, and Latin Grammy Award winner Mr. G is celebrating the release of a brand new book at the Eric Carle Museum, so we'll delve into the pages of Baby Baijena.
Then we'll head to the Southern Berkshires, where authors of all disciplines are gathering to be in conversation. The Words, Ideas, and Thinkers Festival, or the WIT Festival, is now in its 4th year, and we speak with Bernard Schwartz of the Authors Guild about this year's guests and the importance of public discourse.
And we'll hear all about the global and local talents you can catch this weekend in the Paradise City at the Northampton Jazz Festival with President Ruth Griggs. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Clea Smith. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.